Here we go with some stunning foxgloves, finishing up a second layer with our MaimeriBlu collaboration set. My name is Sarah Simon. I'm the Mint Gardener, and welcome back to finishing up this lovely foxglove piece with a second layer of watercolor paints right on top our first layer. Oftentimes the art world can have a lot of scary terms and it can feel like a cool kids club that we aren't invited to. So I always strive to fully define these names that we just throw around and we become accustomed to when we're painting all the time. But if you're new to watercolor, these MaimeriBlu paints are perfect for you, and this exercise would be lovely. So all we're doing with this second layer is called wet on dry and then wet in wet, okay? So we have that first layer in the Naples yellow. Our second layer is a combination of the permanent red deep, the titanium white, and a little bit of that yellow. You can see that secondary wash layer is floating kind of in the middle of our paint palette. And then I'm using wet and wet with a round 4 to dab in a really concentrated bit of pink. And I'm dropping that in, that really concentrated color at the top of our foxglove floret into the wash that is moving and shining in pink, okay? So that is one of the joys of watercolor, is being able to come back and add another layer to deepen that saturation. And this paint set, I worked really hard to make sure that we created just the right combination of colors so that not only can we build that saturation and depth, but these colors mix so well together. So all of these layers can have really interesting exploration in saturated color while also still capturing some of that beautiful light transparency that we all love watercolor for so much. It's a very unique art form. If you think about oil or acrylic, the marks that you make are only there because of where you put your paintbrush, right? Same with markers or colored pencils. You don't get a mark on a piece of paper unless you've made it physically with exactly where you wanted it with your tool. Now, watercolor is very different because paint follows water. So if you want to create a beautiful high to low contrast within a floret, one of these tiny little florets on your page, okay, I'm showing you how to add those layers. You simply can just layer it right on top, okay? So that's what I'm doing again with our florets in the middle of our middle stalk. Notice I have mixed a color that is slightly darker than the original wash. Now, watercolor always dries about 10 to 20% lighter, no matter what paint you use, okay? But if you add just a smidge more of that saturated color right from your tube, building off the color that we already mixed, so this secondary wet on dry wash that we're adding that adds that incredible saturated layer is just a bit more of that permanent red deep. So it allows the eye to suddenly let that first wash that's light beneath fade into the background, indicating depth. Our watercolor goes from flat to 3-dimensional, and then we can use that smaller brush to dab in using wet and wet, yet another layer of saturated color, increasing that vivacity of each floret. If you think about each floret petal as its own little masterpiece, you will be well on your way to creating beautiful watercolors. Different drying times, different washes, each different flower blossom allows you to explore the paint color collaboration and then also say something different. Some of your florets will be super saturated, some will be light, some will have that little detail that I'm adding, that wet on dry squiggle to kind of hint at the bottom of the floret petal kind of coming up and scooping up underneath. It's just a fun way to explore what these paints can do and slowly build in that saturation. Moving slowly is key in watercolor. This video is sped up. I am not painting this fast, I promise. Go slow, be steady, take deep breaths. Remember to not be too attached to the outcome. You can always paint another one of these. That's why this project, I wanted to do 3 different floret stalks so that you could really explore each foxglove stalk on its own, but then each petal on its own as well. All right. So now I'm mixing an even deeper color, and that is going to complement the florets of the foxglove on the far left. Okay, so again, we're slowly building in those deeper colors. It's great to have little sample sheets to your right, just to access, again, to be able to explore what the colors can do, what it's going to look like as it starts to dry. Do I like it to be that dark? Do I want this one to be that dark? You can do a scrap piece of paper on the side. That's what I often do with watercolor, just to see what it's going to look like without going to your actual piece. Now, you could also be working on a foxglove, a secondary foxglove. You could have a whole nother piece and you're cycling through both of them. That's what I often like to do. People ask me if I like to use a blow dryer. I don't, because like I mentioned, watercolor is such a unique art. Paint follows water, and your mark making in this art form doesn't necessarily follow where you put your paintbrush. Paint will follow wherever there is a moisture spot on your piece of paper. So if you want color to go there, get it wet, drop that color in, and see what happens. When you cross wet boundaries, magic starts to happen on your piece of paper, but you can see a lot of the work is really done on your palette, exploring the depth and saturation of your color, and then bringing it over to your piece. Now, by having another piece that you're working on, cycling through things, it allows you to not have to worry about using a blow dryer to speed up any drying time. When you're waiting for something to dry on your primary piece, you can be working on a quote-unquote practice watercolor piece. I find that working on 2 pieces at a time that are similar, what I'm exploring similarly, is so wonderfully freeing, because in my mind, I think, oh, I like this piece a little bit more. I play favorites, right? We all do. Then you play on your practice piece while you're waiting for your other to dry, and you think, goodness, I think I actually like this practice piece a little bit more, because maybe you're taking more risks. And maybe you're trying different things, right? Maybe you're getting the hang of it and you're finding that flow state. It's so lovely to have multiple pieces that you're working on the same thing. This allows you to have that mindset of play and scientific experiment. So again, you don't get too attached to that outcome. When we're not attached to the outcome, we're reminded to take deep breaths and to take chances, because we don't know what's going to happen. And that's where the beauty comes in. And good doesn't end up being the enemy of great, because you're willing to take some chances. I cannot wait to see your foxgloves as we explore this beautiful palette.